Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Martin Bell. In today's video, we'll be doing scatter plots with Python. I'll be working with the most popular data visualization libraries, Pandas, Seaborn, Matplotlib, Plotly, and Plotnine. I'll show examples with all of them. This helps a lot because in some cases, not all the libraries support all the types of plots you can do. There are a few variations of the scatter plot that we'll be covering today. These variations help a lot when you have overplotting, where you have a lot of data you need to visualize. And there are multiple ways you can handle that. And we will also cover doing small multiples with scatter plots. So yeah, let's get started. Here I'm importing some data, basically some import here. I'm setting the styling of Matplotlib to be Seaborn. And I'm also reading the diamonds dataset. What you need to know about diamonds is that they have a price that the dependent variable will be using in this example, and the carat is a measurement of the weight of the diamonds. So of course, we would assume that the higher the weight, the larger the price. And we can also think of scatter plot as statistical visualization. So we have a relationship between two numeric variables, and by including small multiples, we can think of it as a model that incorporates categorical variables. So let's get started with the tutorial. So in the first example, I'll be showing the default plot that you get with Pandas. So as you can see here, we have kind of a stain. We have a lot of plots on top of each other. Yeah, it's really difficult to make anything out of this plot, so you don't know anything in this area. So this is called overplotting, and one way to solve it is using the alpha and the S, that means size parameter. So let me show you what the alpha parameter does. So alpha controls the opacity of each point, and the S controls the size. So this looks a little bit better, but still we could do better. Let's take a look at an example with Matplotlib. So with Matplotlib, you can do the same plot as we did before by using plot.scatter, but generally I just use the Pandas version. In the dataset, we have this variable called cut, that is the cut of the diamond. And what I want to do now is to make a subplot for each cut with a 2D histogram. Let's see how it works. So I'll first show you the plot, and we can go back and see how the code works. So basically what we get here is for each of these subplots, we get something that looks like a scatter plot. But this is very useful when you have overplotting, when you have a lot of data. What this is some sort of 2D histogram. So the darker the color is, the more information, the more observations you have there. So, and the whiter it gets, the less amount of information, the lower frequency you have in these points. So I personally like this plot a lot. This is called the hexbin heat map, also has multiple names. So let's take a look at how this works. So you first define the values of the cut variable, so the ones we saw above. Here you have to define the number of subplots you will put in a row. The number of rows are computed automatically. Here we have some information of the plots, like the figure size, the space between each subplot, and then the title. And this is where the looping happens, that you're iterating over this each element of this group variable, the cut. So for each cut, we run this code. So here we first define an axis, that it's a subplot. So then I filter the data frame by each group variable, and then I plot the hexbin heat map. So basically I pass the X variable, the Y variable, grid size, so the number of points we will have, and these control how the plot looks in general. So if you don't use them, doesn't look very good. Mainly this is the variable that breaks the plot. So by setting the bins to log, it makes the plot look a lot better. And that's it. I mean, I think for the effort it takes, this plot is a very good outcome, but you need to write a relatively large amount of code to do this. So let's take a look at the other options. So Seaborn allows to do these simple scatter plots that look similarly to the Pandas version, but here you can pass a variable with the color very easily. So this is the advantage. If you want to do small multiples with Seaborn, you can use the FacetGrid option. So basically here we define the FacetGrid. This means that we pass the data frame, we pass the variable, we'll be grouping the cut in this case, and we define the number of plots for each row in the plot. Here we have some options in terms of the axis. So if we're sharing the x-axis and the y-axis or not. And the she.map call is the one that actually plots each histogram. So think of the for loop part of the code. And here we pass the function we'll be using, the x variable, the y variable, and here we have some parameters to handle the overplotting. And this is what we get in terms of the scatter plot with Seaborn. I think this looks very good, and the code is it's a lot simpler than the Matplotlib version. And there is another option with Seaborn that allows you to do this 2D heat map type of plot. I think this looks similar to the Matplotlib version. I think the Matplotlib version looks a little bit better, but this is quite good. And if you look at the code that you need to write for this, it's a lot shorter. So a relatively good trade-off between simplicity and a nice output. Okay, so let's take a look at the other options. Here we have Plotly Express, and basically we can do a scatter plot with Plotly Express. I looked for other alternatives, but I didn't find something very interesting. And I think this is quite good anyways. So we use the px.scatter function, and we pass the data frame, we pass the x and y variables, a variable for color. We define the opacity that we were using the alpha parameter before. And this is how we define the facets. So we're using the cut variable, and we're using 3 plots at each row. And this is just, these last options is just to make it look a little bit better. And I think this looks great. And it's very useful if you're building an interactive web application, but you don't have the option to do the 2D histogram plot. At least I didn't find it to do it in a simple way. Plotnine allows to do a relatively simple scatter plot. Also, this looks very good straight out of the box. So here we call ggplot. We pass the data frame. We define the aesthetics, so the x variable, y variable, and the color. And then we define how we will visualize it. So for this, we use the sheOnPoint function. And we also have the alpha parameter and the size of the markers. In terms of simplicity, I think this looks really good. It looks a little bit better than the Seaborn option, for example. Okay, so let's look at the small multiples version of this plot. One thing that allows Plotnine is to add a model to each of these plots. So here I'm using a nonlinear model, so LOS. It's a type of regression model that handles nonlinear data. So this part of the plot is the same. So then I'm adding facet graph. sheOnPoint is what we used above. And sheOnSmooth is the function that plots the line. And the rest is just to control the size of the figure. So in terms of comparing it to this, is almost the same complexity. So in terms of code, this is very simple and probably could be the simplest one because you don't have in terms of number of characters. But I wasn't able to make it work really well, something comparable to the Matplotlib version. So it seems that's not implemented yet because it's very difficult. And overall, I think, yeah, that with Plotnine, you don't have all the options in this case that you have in the R version of ggplot, but still, this looks great. And in practical terms, this is very useful. Yeah, that's it for today. So we covered how to do scatter plots in Python with the most popular data visualization libraries. So if you like the video, please subscribe and like it so we help the algorithm find it. Thank you very much.